All right, we're going to start off by going over these 7th grade minute 12 questions, and then we will look at the problem on the back side of your paper. So question number 1, we have 5/4 minus 1/2. So remember when you are adding or subtracting fractions that you must have the same denominator. And these two fractions do not have the same denominator. So I am going to find a common denominator. I can use 4 as a common denominator. So if I change this 2 to a 4, if I change the bottom, I have to change the top. 2 times 2 is 4. So if I do 1 times 2, that is 2. So hopefully we can all agree that 1/2 does equal 2/4. Now that I have the same denominator, all I need to do is subtract my numerators. 5 minus 2 is 3, and I keep my numerator a 4. So 3/4 is my answer for number 1. Number 2. More fractions. If 3/8 divided by 2/3 equals 3/8 times 3/blank, then x equals what? So what do we know about dividing fractions? Hopefully you know when you divide fractions that you do same, change, flip, right? Some people say keep, change, flip. So keeping that first fraction the same, 3/8, changing division to multiplication, and then flipping, what's it called when you flip a fraction? The reciprocal. When you flip 2/3, it becomes 3/2. So x in this example would be a 2. Number 3, -4 in parentheses to the second power means -4 times -4. That is true. And you don't have to find the answer to it. The answer would be 16. But that is true. It's not just -4 times 4. Those parentheses are important there. All right, number 4. 12 times what is 4? I wonder how many people put 3 here. 12 times 3 is 36. So 3 is not a right answer. Notice that this 12 is getting smaller. What can you multiply by to get something smaller? It would have to be something less than 1. 12 times 1 is 12. So you're going to be multiplying by a fraction. Basically ask yourself, what can you divide 12 by to get 4? And that's where our 3 would come into play. If we did 12 divided by 3, that would equal 4. So if I said 12 times 1/3, would that equal 4? 12 times 1/3. I would do that by doing 12/1 times 1/3. And when you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. So that would be 12/3. And there we have 12 divided by 3, which is 4. So I think number 4 was a little tricky. Hopefully you didn't rush through it and just put a 3. All right, number 5. Which of the following could be the area of a room? 18 meters cubed, 50 feet, or 29 meters squared? So to figure out this one, it's not looking at the digits, the 18, 50, and 29. That's not going to help us. What's going to help us is by looking at the measurements. Meters cubed, feet, meters squared. When you find the area, okay, when you find the area of something, you do length times width, or side times side if it is a square. Length times width, okay? So if this was, let's do one of them that's not on here. Let's do yards. It'd be yards times yards, which is yards squared. So area is always to this, the unit of measurement is always to the second power. And notice that this one here, meters squared, that means that this was area. They did meters times meters. When you see cubed, that would be meters times meters times meters. That would be like volume, okay? If you see cubed, that is volume. And if you do not see a to the second power or to the third power, it's just regular like this, that would work down here for number 6. The perimeter of the room, where you're just adding up the outside edges. You're not multiplying feet by feet. You're doing feet plus feet plus feet plus feet, okay? So this would be B, which answer 50 feet. So that's important to know. Perimeter would just be the unit of measurement. Area would be the unit of measurement to the second power. And volume would be the unit of measurement to the third power. That's something that should be helpful to know. Number 7, draw 2 lines in the following trapezoid to create 3 equilateral triangles. So everyone knows what a triangle looks like, but equilateral, what does equilateral mean? Equilateral means that the sides are the same length. So in this triangle, all 3 sides are the same length. If we draw 2 lines like that, I know it's not perfect, but that would give us 3 equal-sized equilateral triangles. All right, number 8. What shape would the net to the right create if you folded it? So if this is the 2-dimensional shape and you were able to cut this out and fold it up, which one of these 3-dimensional shapes would it look like? I noticed that I have these 2 big rectangles here. And then I have these 4 small rectangles. So look at this one here. The top and the bottom of that 3-dimensional shape would be the 2 big rectangles. And then the sides, the front and the back and the left and the right, those would be your smaller rectangles. So that net matches up with A. All right, 9 and 10, we're looking at the Venn diagram over here. How many kids like cookies only? So cookies only would be 17. How many kids like both cookies and cake? So where they overlap, cookies and cake would be 8. All right, now we're going to look on the back side of your paper. So remember, if you have not yet done this, then please pause the video so everyone can do this problem. There are multiple parts, and then when everyone's ready, you can hit resume. So it says Lynn is baking 20 cakes. She needs blueberries, strawberries, and some other ingredients for her recipe. She needs 22 pounds of blueberries. She needs twice as many pounds of blueberries as she does strawberries. Now, before we get to part A, does that mean she needs more blueberries or more strawberries? She needs twice as many pounds of blueberries as she does strawberries. Twice as many blueberries. She needs more blueberries. Okay. She has more blueberries in these recipes than she does strawberries. Twice as many more blueberries. And how many blueberries does she use? She uses 22 pounds of blueberries. So if that's twice as many as strawberries, how many is strawberries? Right? Hopefully you got those answers. Now, knowing that is then going to help you with this equation. So what this equation really is going to do is find that 11, okay? But it's good to understand the problem before you start writing your equation. Writing the equation is something that is very hard for most people. So it says, write an equation that can be used to determine the number of pounds of strawberries Lynn needs. Be sure to define the variable in your equation. So let's work on defining the variable first. When you define the variable, you are picking a variable, a letter, A through Z, and it should be lowercase. Well, what are we finding here? What do we want to know? We want to determine the number of pounds of strawberries, right? That's what we want to know. So we want to pick a letter of the alphabet that is going to represent the number of pounds of strawberries. And typically you choose a letter that kind of matches up with one of the words, like S for strawberries. But you can literally use any letter you want to in the alphabet, all right? X is a very popular variable for people to use. But I'm going to use S, okay? Defining the variable, I'm saying that S is my variable. And what does S stand for? S is going to stand for the number of pounds of strawberries. I'm just going to put pounds of strawberries. Now, when you write an equation, what does an equation have to have? An equation has to have an equal sign. So look at your equation that you have written already. Do you have an equal sign? Because that is definitely going to make it an equation or not an equation. If it doesn't have an equal sign, then it is called an expression. Okay, and it should only have one equal sign also. Now, when you're writing this equation, you can only include information that is given to you. So we cannot include the 11. The 11 was not given to us. We figured that out. But the 22 blueberries, the 22 pounds of blueberries, that was given to us. Okay. And we also want to use our variable that we came up with. We want to use our equal sign. So how did we find that 11? Twice as many blueberries as strawberries. So maybe you did 22 divided by 2 equals 11. So that could be what one of our equations looks like. 22 divided by 2 equals, and again, I don't want to put 11 in there. I want to use my variable, S. S is going to stand for 11. Maybe you wrote 2 times S equals 22. 2 times 11 equals 22, right? Maybe you wrote 22 divided by 2 equals S, or 1/2 times 22 equals S. All of these are correct equations, okay? The equation has an equal sign, the equation has my variable, and the equation has that 22 in it. I do not have the 11. So just be careful when you're writing your equations. Again, it's something that's very difficult for people to do. And the only way you're going to get better at it is just to practice it and to kind of know some tricks or things to look for that you definitely want to include in your equations. Okay, let's move on to part B. Lynn buys the blueberries for $3 per pound and the strawberries for $2 per pound. What is the total cost of the blueberries and the strawberries? So I want to show all my work. I want to be organized. I'm going to find blueberries first. So I'm just going to put blue for blueberries. How many pounds of blueberries do we need? 22 pounds of blueberries, $3 per pound. So that means each pound, 1 pound is $3. We have 22 pounds. So if I multiply 22 times 3, that'll give me $66 for blueberries. Now your strawberries. How many pounds of strawberries do we need? 11. How much is it per pound? $2. So 11 times $2 would be $22. Now we want to find the total cost of the blueberries and the strawberries. So I'm going to add together my 66 and my 22, and that will give me my answer for part B, which is $88. Moving on to part C. In addition to the cost of the berries, that was 88. Cost of the berries was 88. In addition to that 88, Lynn spends $52 on the other ingredients needed to make the 20 cakes. Lynn wants to make $5 profit for each cake she sells, taking into account the amount she spends on all ingredients. How much should Lynn sell each cake for in order to make a $5 profit per cake? So if this was your business, if you were Lynn and you were making cakes to sell, you would not just want to sell the cake for how much it costs you to make it. The whole point of selling things is that you are making some money, right? You're earning an income. So Lynn needs to figure out how much is she spending on each cake and how much would she need to sell the cake for in order to make $5 profit, but also cover the cost of all her ingredients. So we know that it's going to cost $88 for the berries and $52 for the other ingredients like flour and sugar and that kind of stuff. Okay. And that's going to make 20 cakes. So let's figure that out first. 88 plus 52. That's going to give us $140. And again, this is the cost to make 20 cakes. All right. So if she went to the grocery and bought all the berries and all the other ingredients, it would cost her $140. That's going to be enough to make 20 cakes. Let's figure out how much it costs to make one cake, because that's what we really want to know here, right? The profit per cake. So let's figure out the cost to make one cake. Let's not worry about the profit yet. So if it's $140 to make all 20, if I divide $140 by 20, that's going to tell me the cost of one cake. Now, hopefully you can use a shortcut here since they both end in 0. If I just look at the 14 and the 2, 14 divided by 2 is 7. So $7 is the cost to make one cake. So if Lynn sold the cakes for $7 each, then all she's doing is covering the cost it took to go to the grocery. Okay. She is not making any profit whatsoever if she sells it for $7. She wants to make $5 profit per cake. So she can't just sell it for $5 or she'd lose money, right? She needs to sell it for the $7 it takes to make it and the $5. So 7 plus 5 is $12. If she sells each cake for $12, then she will be making a $5 profit, and she'll also be able to cover the cost of making the cake. All right, that is the end of today's lesson. Have a good rest of your day.